we'll start our last part with the plugins. So I'll get right to it. So plugins, really, we've seen with the branches from, the NCNR branch or the Penn State branch that there's just some things when they're too intertwined with the NEMO's code. It is really the best way to implement your own version is to make a branch and start your own. But really, as much as possible, we like it to write plugins when it's convenient, when it works with it. Now, when is that really? Most of the time, when it's easy to write plugins is when you add functionality to NEMO that doesn't touch much of the other code in NEMO, something that can be kind of separated into its own thing. And that's what the plugin will do really is it's like a little project that is added onto it. But yeah, that is not always easy. Another option is if some of your changes are relatively small and the option to write a plugin is just quite not really there for something small. You can try to contact us. I mean, you can submit a pull request on GitHub. We've had contributions, I said all over the world. Not that it matters where people are from that are contributing, but I just think it's kind of cool that there are people contributing from different places. Like we mentioned, some of these things like the description of tools with the picture that was contributed probably over a year ago. Some of the customization of the calendar with the times and some of those things were contributed by people outside of the US, kind of specifically for that reason, because they wanted to be able to customize the format that will be used in the calendar. We've had a contribution for adding all tools and areas, like I talked about before. So we've had contributions for user table lists or other things, kind of little things that if it's something that's small, if it's something that adds functionality, if it's something that will be helpful, then there's a good chance it will be accepted and incorporated into the master branch of NEMO. So before starting your fork, don't try to think about it and maybe start a discussion on GitHub, or go into the forum and start a little something to see if there's a way to make that into a plugin rather than branching out, because like we've said and like we've talked about before, when branching out, you do have to then deal with the merging, which sometimes can be pretty easy, pretty straightforward, but sometimes it can also be a bit of a pain depending on how much there is that you have to catch up on and how much code is in your plugin. We have 2 plugins currently in NEMO that are internal, and those are plugins that ship with NEMO, but are not enabled until you explicitly set them in your settings. So those are the area access tablet-friendly application, and the kiosk that we showed before, that is also that part of NEMO. That special page is also something that has to be enabled kind of separately. So they're plugins, they have their own functionality, and I guess you can kind of get what I was saying before with those. They all separate. It's almost like a little separate interface into NEMO. So it works really well for that type of stuff. And we have currently, at least Prometheus has developed 2 main plugins for NEMO. One of them it's called NEMO-Allauth, and this is an authentication plugin. This is a bridge really from Django Allauth plugin with just a few things that are added and tied into NEMO better. And what this plugin allows you to do, and I guess I'll show, this is the project on PyPy. So this is where the plugin has been released. There's a description of the project and some information about how to install it, and how to use it and what some of the options are, with some examples. And just to give you a, right page. Here it is. This is what it's based on, this Django-Allauth plugin. We just made it so that it fits and works really easily with NEMO. And this is, here you can see on the left-hand side, those are all the providers that this plugin supports. So you can use it to do third-party authentication, basically, with any of those. Google is in there, Facebook, Evernote. I mean, there's just tons of stuff with your GitHub account, LinkedIn. There's just so many, and they keep adding more. OrcID, if that's something that you're into, Pinterest, I mean, and so on. So they have a lot of support for all of those. It works really well. And once you set it up, I'll show a quick version. I can get to the right one. Here we go. This is all Prometheus NEMO server. And this is what you see when you first arrive. This can be customized, of course. And we only enabled for this example Keycloak and Google. And, so if I log in using Keycloak, then this redirects me to Keycloak, where that's where all user account stuff is set up. And I was able to log in now, as myself. And I'll show also with Google. So this time I'm already, I'm signed out, but I'm kind of logged in, so I should be able to sign in with my Google account here. And I'm, again, logged in as myself. And so I have two ways to log in like this. And like I showed before, you can add as many providers as you want. So this could be a good way to start for those places where you don't necessarily have an LDAP, and you have people, external people, and you'd like them to be able to use those accounts that they already have on third-party websites. So, I mean, this one is a pretty simple one. So, it works really well if you want to use it. I mean, it's compatible with, I think, I don't remember where it started, but NEMO 3.5, maybe 3.6. So it's still compatible with the latest version. And so it's really easy to install. If you're using pip for NEMO, then you can just, you install it like this. Otherwise, if you're using Docker, we have a little page on the GitHub wiki that shows you how to override the Docker command that is launched at the beginning, so you can make sure it's installed first, so that you can use it without having to create your own separate Docker image. And the next one, and this is the big one here, is we created a billing plugin. It is kind of still in the beta phase. There's still a few things that we need to add and enhance, especially some of the UI stuff. But most of the functionality is there. And I want to thank all friends from 4D Labs. I think Nathaniel is in the attendees there. They've really helped us kind of put this together to build this, and with the kind of the process and what kind of information should be there, how it should work. So same thing, you can install it very easily using pip install, and I will just show you. It's also here on PyPy. Oh, do I have it? Yes. So same thing as the other one. There is some information about how you can set it up, some of the options that you can set. And then it's kind of divided into 3 separate things. The billing itself, then the invoice, the rates, and then the invoices plugin. So you could just have the rates and not the invoices if you want. You can kind of set it up however you want. So I will go back to our demo server here to just show you what this adds. So one of the first things that it adds is rates. Again, we'll still have some more maybe to do on how to make this sort of more compact. But you can create new rates here, and that allows you to create rates directly in Nemo rather than having to have them set up in a separate system. You can do that here. If I select a tool, I have here set two rate types, the academia type and the industry type. You can set as many as you want, and it will kind of create this form here based on how many you have, where you can put the rates for each tool usage for each separately, and you can say if it's a flat rate in case you don't want to charge by the hour. I think it says by default it is expressed per hour, but if you want it to just be a flat rate, you can set that up here. You can have a minimum charge, and then it goes on with the training rates. Anything that is related to tool can be done through this form. Now, I will show kind of quickly the administrative part, because it's kind of shows a little bit of how you can set this up. And this is the table that shows you how the types are set. What we've decided here is to put all the possible billable items in NEMO. And then we have two options, whether they're category specific, which will go into the academia or industry kind of split, or again, whatever you may have here, and whether or not they are item specific. And for instance, if you wanted your tool usage to be not depending on the tool itself, but just be a same rate for everything, you can set that up here to have it not be item specific. Same goes for tool missed reservation rate. For instance, you could have that be either set that you have a missed reservation price per tool that will be different for each tool, or have it just be the same for all the missed reservation. And so this here allowed to have some flexibility on how you want to set up your rates, for your organization. The other thing that was added, so this is where the categories I was talking to you about, that can be set here. The other thing that this plugin adds is the ability to have custom charges. They can be set in here. I'll talk about this one in a second. But for staff members, they can now go to custom charges, and you can create a custom charge here, put a name, description, the date, and a customer project, set all that up right here. And that is not something that's in the regular NEMO code. So this is something we added to allow for flexibility. And you could even use that for things like adjustments. You can put a negative amount here and just say, -10, just to adjust for something that happened. You can use those custom charges for that. And before I go to invoices, I guess I'll go there first. This module here allows you to gather all the billable items. So it will grab training sessions, it will grab tool usage, area usage, all of that stuff, and you can create invoices per project. I will generate one for June. So a little bit of information is set in here, and this is the invoice view here, and you have also a PDF that is created. If it shows up, right? So again, we could still improve some of this stuff, but the functionality, there's some extra information that is added to projects, and this generates this invoice. You can, in the configuration for invoices, you can set the information about your company, a logo that is going to appear here, and then a few different things like the terms and conditions. You can set that up all in the administration. And you have a summary page that kind of gives you an overview of how much you spend. So it doesn't tell you all the details about if this tool was used multiple times during the month. It will put everything together in the summary in one line for you. You have taxes that can be set also to whatever percent you want, and have the name set to whatever you want. And there's also a detailed view that can be either enabled or disabled through the administration. So this is just a kind of a typical way of using it. Creating that invoice, you can review it. Once it's reviewed, you kind of go over and you make sure everything is all right. Staff member will review it, and then you can send it, which will send it to the email address that is on the project. So part of this plugin has an enhanced view, an enhanced project model. So we added more fields, like the email address needs to be sent to the category of that project. So I showed you before the academia industry. Well, now you can set that on a project basis so that it can be tied up together to create this invoice. You can see the details in here, just the same as you can see in the PDF. And we even have a payment tab where you can record payments that were made. So if you received some of it, but not all, you can set that. Say that I received 1,000, and then now it shows the outstanding balance here. And once you send the invoice, it will also send reminders to the customer until their outstanding balance is down to 0. So before I kind of finish with that, I'll show one last bit, which is what we call the core facilities here. This allow you to, and this is really strictly for the invoicing part, the billing part. It allows you to create a facility and pick which tool and which area and which consumables are set to be the responsibility of that core facility. What I'll do is I'll split it in the invoice. So we'll still create that one invoice, except in that invoice, there will be a separate category per facility with all the different tools and charges for that. So it allows you to kind of split that invoice into multiple sections, in there. So, and that is, again, not linked to really much of anything. It's just to organize that part, and then they will also show up in this screen. If you have core facilities set up, then you have a separate tab that shows you the total per invoice that is assigned to that facility. So instead of having general here, you'd have characterization and another facility with another part of it set up. And that's pretty much all I had here in terms of those plugins. I think this has been something that we've been working on for a little while, especially the billing one, and we really would like to encourage people to maybe try it out, give us feedback, and also if you create any plugins, if you have ideas, maybe start a discussion on the message board on the on GitHub or in the group, the forum, Google group list for NEMO, anyway, or just contact us directly and see if we could find people that would be willing to pitch in, or if there's some opportunity that other places would like to add as well. If we can make certain things like this as plugins, then it will be much easier to for other facilities to adapt and use them for their version of NEMO. So let me see if there are any questions. All right, so here's a question here right before we go to the open session. I'll try to answer that one. What's the latest build number, and when was the equipment details and pictures option added? The latest build is 3.10. We're about to release 3.11. Right now it's set to be released next Tuesday. So a week from now will be the new version. And when was the equipment details and pictures option added? That has been in it for quite a while now, I think. Must be about a year, I would think, that this was added. The two documents were added more